A simple practice tip that can help you at all stages of realization. It can really smooth this process. And I take this from just observing people. Who wakes up quicker, who wakes up slower, when people get bogged down and why, and what it is that distracts people from the simple task of investigating their true nature or the immediate and unmistakable nature of presence. The practice tip is make infrequent adjustments. Now, to unpack this a bit, I'll give you an example. It's not uncommon that I'll suggest to somebody to work with a certain question, koan, investigation, and it's always based on what they tell me or what they perceive is going on for them. And I'll make the suggestion to stay with it for a few days, a week, something like that. And then they'll message me a couple hours later with a whole bunch of evaluations and observations and conclusions and other experiences they've had. And I'll say something along the lines of, what happened to the plan of practicing with this one question for a while? And often they'll laugh and realize it was just their mind getting busy with doubt disguised as analysis, distraction disguised as concern, etc. So this is really common. It happens very frequently. Many of us recognize this as the background chatter of the mind. But even at deeper stage realization, it can still be a challenge when you really start to drill down into a certain perceptual filter in a very specific way. And the mind just goes nuts. It doesn't like that. Because when you really start looking at reality, things get very thin very quickly. The self has nowhere to hide. It starts to feel triggered, caged, like an animal. And one of the things that works for it to get your attention is to go into this place of indecision, conveniently overlooking that you already made the decision to practice in a certain way. And then it goes about the business of deciding what to do, how to approach this, what it thinks of what's going on, etc. So again, it's sort of just a background chatter of the mind, but if we buy into it, it can very easily collapse the practice or our attention on one specific question or inquiry into just mental noise. So an analogy I will make for this is like the comparison or contrast between driving a car and driving a ship or a boat. When you drive a car, you have to be constantly alert and you make minor adjustments constantly. You make minor adjustments in steering, the accelerator, the brakes, etc. When you're driving a ship, you have to make adjustments far less frequently. There's more observation, drifting along, and just taking some time to see how the last adjustment has affected the overall course. So this is a better way to practice. Make a decision on what sort of practice you want to take up for a few days, a week, a month, and then just give that practice your attention. What often happens is the mind gets so busy going, well, what if it's the wrong practice? What if I'm not choosing the right thing? Maybe I need to read some more stuff. Let me read some more books. Let me talk to some more people. Let me watch some more videos. There's a value to all of that. But when it comes to this process, awakening, realization, as you've heard me say, 95% practice, 5% reading or information. And this is really important. So once you've decided on a practice or an investigation or an inquiry, stick with it for a while and really drill down into it. Don't get distracted. Don't change it into something else and start mind wandering and getting curious about, oh, what's it like to do it this way? And let me try this practice and let me read this and talk to this person about it. This just dissipates your effort, honestly. You're far better off sitting down and just really drilling into one question, especially before awakening. Who am I? What is Mu? Where am I? Any of those questions work, but you only need one. You don't need a lot of information. You just need a certain dedication, vigilance, alertness, and willingness to go through what you have to go through, and a willingness to let go, but maintain the practice or maintain the attention to the question, the inquiry, which regardless of the question you're using, who am I? What is Mu? Where am I? What is my face before my parents were born? regardless of the question, the movement is the same. What is my true nature? What is the nature of suffering? Who suffers? This is the underlying movement of awakening. So as long as that's intact, as long as you remain in fidelity with that, you're in a good place. So then the practice or the question or the inquiry point is more like a focus point. It's a focus point for that deep intention to know your true nature. The deep intention to end suffering, find the end to suffering. So the question is a tuning fork. But keep that tuning fork. Keep it at the same frequency. If you're constantly changing frequencies, changing tuning forks, changing practices, it's just too easy for the mind to get a hold of you. It's too easy to turn this all into thought and conceptuality. So trust the process. Trust everything you go through to remain adherent to that one question, that one inquiry. You're going to go through a lot. You're going to feel a lot letting go. You're going to feel grief. You're going to feel fear, contraction, intense sensations. It's fine. You might even have involuntary body movements, kundalini. You might hear things. You might have existential fear. That's all fine. Just let it be. Stay with the question. Who am I? And don't settle for a thought answer. And if a thought says, I'm not sure I'm doing this right, recognize that's a thought. So who am I that's aware of that thought? Go there. Again and again and again. If you're working on clarifying aspects of the non-dual experience, and stick with one question for a while. See what happens. Where is the hearing? Where is the sound? Notice the internal dialogue describing the mechanism of sound that you learned. Put your attention back in the sound. Where is the sound? Notice the mental images. It means attention's returned to thoughts or the mind. Again, where is the sound? Very simple, very singular. Do this for 5 minutes, you might notice a difference. Do this for an hour, you'll definitely notice a difference. Do this a few hours a day for a month, you might be really, really surprised what happens. So, again, to summarize, a lot of what I see really slows people down in this is a sort of indecision. It's sort of doubt and indecision. You don't trust yourself, you don't trust the practice, you're not sure if you have the right teacher, you're not sure if you have the highest principle or the most clear map of realization. Forget about all that. It's just wasting your time. Pick one practice. Pick one thing, one question, one stanza, one line from the Heart Sutra, and drill down into it in your immediate experience. And don't stop. Keep going until something shifts, obviously. Something fundamental to what you are. Not an experience. Something in your identity changes. Or something in the physical world changes, shifts, dissolves. Slow and steady wins the race. Single questions drilled down deep with a genuine intent to know and a sort of ruthless dedication to letting go of all conceptual, logical, and even experiential conclusions. Keep going. When people do this, shifts happen.